I mispositioned this box. There we go. How's it going? Oh boy, it's been a while since I streamed. I still have that cough. If it goes any longer, I'll have to get it checked. But oh my goodness. What is this? Actually streaming 40K? And you demand, thank you so much. Let me just get chat set up real quick. So, oh, Karav there, thank you so much for the 18 months. I haven't been around streaming much lately, so this is quite the way to get back into it. But yeah, I'm gonna be showing off some 40K footage. This is all pre-recorded. This is the Gamescom build that they gave me, so I can't actively test stuff that you guys ask for. But we covered a bunch of battle gameplay, which I think will be interesting. There's kind of two ways to go about it. Let me just start playing it. There's two ways to go about it. There's the form your own opinions way, which of course everyone's gonna do. There's also my own opinions based off my experience with Creative Assembly. A more critical look at the game. Now, obviously, 40K is insanely hype. Obviously, just look at this. Just look at this. I can't believe I actually got to play this. Which makes me feel bad for being very critical. Now, there's gonna be the usual stuff. So this is like, well, first of all, this is like one of the big battles that they let you load into. It looks good. It looks real good. There's going to be some bugs that we run into, some minor bugs. When's the beta? I don't know. You'll have to ask Creative Assembly. Man, it really does look good, though. But yeah, there's a few bugs. There's a few visual bugs that you'll see quite a bit. That's kind of the nature of alpha. There's a few problems that could arise that I think are not the nature of alpha, and I'll get into that. I'll get into that once we actually run into said presumed issues. Some of them will not matter to you guys. Some of them will matter. It really depends, and it's my job to show everything everything that I can so that you guys can make opinions. Is it real? It's real. It's crazy. Now imagine it's like I use AI to generate 40K footage, but no, this is straight up. This is me playing. This is actually me playing the game, or at least a recording of me playing the game. This is me looking at the abilities. I kind of just went in, kind of just took the deep dive. This is a little over 2 hours of footage. You just kidding? Yeah, I know. Redeem the stretch, thank you. Early Ent, yeah, gotta show this off. A bunch of other creators dropped the video as soon as the embargo dropped. But yeah, overall thoughts. What do I think? Gameplay's great. If you have no problems with Warhammer 3, this is freaking amazing, okay? Like, if you like Warhammer 3 and you know, and you have no complaints, you love the balancing, you love the gameplay, this is just, you get that 40K style and you get cool new mechanics. There's like a new strafing mechanic. There's you know, just like the new engine which lets models like shoot and move at the same time. So there's some insane skirmishing stuff you can do. It's a lot more gun heavy gameplay, I noticed, than Warhammer 3. It's actually a lot more gun heavy focused. Imagine like if every unit was a variant of Free Company Militia or Weight Watchers. Everything moves and shoots. It's crazy. And that's one of the things. Well, You know, that's one of the things that might be a deal breaker for some people. I did notice, I'll get into it later, I noticed the melee gameplay doesn't feel the same as Warhammer. So naturally, like, first thing I do, right? Look at this. First thing I wanted to test out was the single entities, right? Man, it looks great though. If it doesn't look great to you, that's fine. Everyone can have their own opinions, but by my eye, this is great. You can feel that it's a new engine. It's not like extremely, like when you play it, it's still going to feel like a Total War engine. It doesn't feel like they completely innovated it from the ground up. Everything feels pretty similar. Oh yeah, this is like the buff spells in this game. I can't believe buff spells still last. Actually, that one lasts 1 minute. That's not that bad. There's another one that lasts only 30 seconds. But yeah, they have like can you see my mouse if I yeah, so like these buff spells here, I can gesture. So these buff spells, they're very similar to how they balance buff spells in Warhammer 3. Very mild. They're a little bit better. Like, look at that. This one actually gives you like 20% dodge chance. So some of the, I would say these things are better. They also made abilities here really strong. I don't know if that's what they plan for the game or if it's just for the showcase. On the galaxy map, it looks so bad. I didn't test out the actual campaign much since I'm more of a battle guy. But yeah, I'll try to respond to all your messages while talking about what's going on. So you see here how the tank is like charging through these guys? I'm trying to use the tank in melee. I'm trying to use it like a steam tank in Warhammer 3. It doesn't really act like that, and it doesn't have like chariot charge animations. So like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll actually roll it back. So like, I tried clicking on them and it just doesn't have like a melee attack. It just kind of rolls over them and then they get back up. So this is what I mean by the gun gameplay feels way... It feels way less crunchy than the Warhammer 3. I mean, the melee gameplay feels way less crunchy than Warhammer 3. Like, a lot of units just lack melee. Or at least, like, the tanks and the vehicles do. So it's kind of weird. Destructible terrain, I'll get into that. Destructible terrain didn't feel very impactful. It might just be because of all the abilities they gave. But, like, straight up everything breaks destructible terrain. It felt almost like a non-mechanic. You know. If you think about forests in Warhammer 3, they're indestructible, right? But yeah, destructible terrain, I don't know, like, I tried using it in some future battles, but yeah. It didn't feel crazy. Bar the names, reserves, and orders sideways. Let's see here, like, you mean like somewhere down here? That I wouldn't mind too much. UI is super volatile in alpha builds. Like, you know, from history, I'm pretty sure, and like, you know, just games in general, the UI can change. I wouldn't really worry about that too much. I would more focus on things that kind of seem like the more finished features that are much harder to change. So a lot of like what they're trying to showcase, I think the abilities and the strength of the abilities is really high. We're talking like launch Warhammer 1. Each one of these is basically a cataclysm level spell in Warhammer 3. It is insanely overtuned to the point where I didn't actually care about my units. I didn't even learn what a lot of my units did because these were so strong that you just optimize for these three abilities. Once you, like, you know, if you're really try-harding, which is a little worrying. Obviously they can rebalance it, but that's kind of the direction that they're going right now. and it's hard to say if they'll actually change from that direction. Of course, if that doesn't matter to you, right, then whatever. But you know, for like higher difficulties, it might feel like you have to min-max this instead of actually making cool compositions, which I think is at least a slight potential problem. Yeah, I think you can occupy buildings, though. Like, I didn't really use it much because like everything destroys destructible terrain. Also, the AI, that's one thing that I want to talk about. AI is kind of janky. You can see there's a little bit of a targeting bug here too. So this little targeting from the AI went off course because of this terrain. That's a bug they could fix. But also, like, I don't know. I don't know if they will. I don't know. Like, they haven't really released much on the AI. I will say the AI feels, from my experience, the AI feels the same as Warhammer 3. Except they don't have cavalry in this battle, so they don't really flank. That was probably the most disappointing part, actually, if we're going into the deep analysis. The most disappointing part for me is the fact that the AI... Also, you can see abilities they're not global anymore. They have to be cast within the range of your units. Interesting change. I have strong feelings about it. But yeah, you see how they just kind of march forwards? There's like nothing really going on. There's nothing going on in the noggin of the AI. Less so even than the Warhammer 3 AI. Now, this is completely, you know, maybe they'll change it. But generally speaking, I think something like AI is a lot more difficult to change. And because it doesn't really seem like there's a focus on it in kind of one of the big showcases, I don't know if they're going to change it. Usually with creative assembly, the best way to think about you know, how they do things is like wait until they actually change it. Don't presume that they'll make changes. There's like a few things that you can presume that they'll do, but generally speaking, like, I would be pretty skeptical that they'll have huge changes to the AI. Maybe small updates. Also more cool spells, by the way. But, you know, if you disagree with me, that's totally fine. It's just kind of my experience having worked with them. You know, unless a lot of people are really complaining about it, it's kind of like a Wilty situation. Now, if you're a more casual player, this doesn't matter to you at all. If you're a more casual player, here, let me just lay it out real quick. If you're a casual player, you will love this game, all right? If you're a casual player, you'll love whatever they put out. You don't need me to tell you if you'll have fun or not. Clearly, this is great. But the nitty-gritty is what I want to go into. You can see sometimes when you retreat and just give a move command, they'll like auto strafe. You see basically everything has move and shoot, by the way. Even this tank over here, you can see it's like firing behind while it moves. I will say that's pretty cool. I don't know how it works for multiplayer, where basically everything is a strafing unit. Like, are you just basically gonna have Wood Elf versus Wood Elf gameplay? Not entirely sure, but yeah. Yeah, the abilities are super overtuned. That, I give it like a 50-50 on if they change it or not. Because Creative Assembly generally leans into like the cool, flashy kind of gameplay a lot of the times. And because it's cool and flashy, I think it's harder to get it to change, but who knows? Battle stances for regular troops? I don't think they have battle stances. Like, they have loose formations and normal formations. The stuff at the bottom here isn't stance changing. Outside of like strafing, guard mode, sentry mode, which they talked about, which lets you target fire specific units. Even casual players hated Warhammer 3 launch. Yeah, but I think less so for the battle gameplay, right? It was more so because the campaign gameplay was super samey. And like, they just haven't really shown much of that, so it's really hard to say. But you know, like, after a little while, I really ran into a lot of battle gameplay complaints with like line of sight and all that. And I will say, generally speaking, the battle gameplay in 40k, at a glance, it feels better than the Warhammer 3 battle, like launch gameplay. Line of sight is improved. I'm not in my whole 2 hours of gameplay, I did not have an issue with line of sight. There is kind of the usual thing where slight hills can block line of sight, but the way they design the map, it's super duper flat. If they ever have like a great animations, by the way. If they ever have like a Dunes of Cain type map, if they ever release a map that has like teeny tiny little hills that you can't see because the lighting doesn't actually show it, you will totally run into line of sight issues like you do for Warhammer. If they have a map that's like a siege battle, nothing in this gameplay showed me that showed me that you'll be able to tell whether or not your units will get line of sight and shoot or walk forwards into melee because you gave them an attack command. You love the fact that you get an indication of the spell charging on the cast zone itself. Oh yeah, that is true. That is a nice upgrade. Also, these drop pods are sick. They actually do damage. Later, you'll see me actually use the drop pods as spells to do damage. You can also use them to drop units down to increase the cast range of your abilities. So, like, usually you can only cast abilities within range of your units. But there's like a weird drop pod chaining tech that I use, where you drop one pod, which lets you drop another pod, which lets you drop another pod, and then you can cast your big abilities. Very fun. Also, they had some weird stuff where I think they inverted right click and left click for the abilities. That's a small complaint. Most of the creators brought that up. They'll probably have an option to change it at launch. Also, the drop pods have machine guns. Isn't that cool? As someone who's new to generally new to 40k, it's pretty cool. They also, when you select all your units, all of their abilities show up on this area. That's an improvement. Like, generally speaking, I think the gameplay in battle and the new features we get will make it better than than Warhammer 3's launch. There's just a bunch of cool new features that will be really hard to, you know, to go back to Warhammer 3 and not have those features. Strafing, abilities being all together. UI isn't super clear, but I'm sure they'll change that. Though it is really hard to say. Like, maybe the melee gameplay will just be so bad that it just sucks. I don't know. I will say the melee gameplay actually feels like a downgrade. A slight downgrade, but definitely a downgrade. How does the unit / faction variety feel? I will say a vibes based look at it. Also, if you have questions, just at me. Just do at Inticity so I can see it a bit easier. I gotta cover the gameplay and look at chat, so that'll just make it easier for me to answer questions quickly. But yeah, from a vibes based feel, it didn't feel very punchy. All the a lot of the units have ranged attacks and differing range attacks, so it's really hard actually distinguishing them at a glance. There were some units though that like felt very punchy compared to others. I think there's like, yeah, there's like a very heavy armored melee focused space marine with like tusks. You have like the guys with guns, you have some like machine gun guys. The thing is though, they didn't really stand out a whole ton. Even like if I just right click you know, like a big tank or something, or like the big stompy boy. Oh, there's a strafe mode, by the way. It didn't feel like I was paying attention too much. It's not like a huge, it's not like a downgrade though. Like, if it was the first time I was ever playing Warhammer 3, and I had my archers shoot an Ragnarok spider while crossbows shoot an Ragnarok spider. It feels kind of like that. Obviously, the Ragnarok spider is resisting a lot of the damage, but generally, if you're shooting at something, it's going to take damage almost no matter what you're shooting with. In terms of like, you know, hard counters, it feels very similar to Warhammer 3. Everything is like a medium to soft counter. There are no true very hard counters, I would say. How is range lethality? Range lethality felt similar to Warhammer 3, I would say. Let me see. Yeah, similar to Warhammer 3, maybe even less, but that's probably because I'm not optimizing the units. How is combat readability so far? When I was playing, it was streamed because they didn't give me a download file. So it was super hard to tell anything. Now that I am rewatching it in HD and what's it? Yeah, now that I'm rewatching it in HD, and I've played the battle a couple times, it is actually way easier to read. If you're having a hard time reading it now, you know, I'm able to tell what's going on after like 2 hours of gameplay and 2 hours of reviewing the footage. So I would say readability is pretty good. It's lagging a bit because I accidentally have it on X4 speed. In terms of, you know, gameplay optimization, apparently in game development that comes in really late. So if anything's lagging, probably you don't need to worry about it. Is it like Warhammer 3 where it's hard to read combat because of unit banners? I would say it's about the same difficulty to read as Warhammer 3. I don't think they made it more readable. There's also sometimes the abilities will cover up units, so that makes it a little hard to tell what's going on if you're like really paying attention, but it's about the same as Warhammer 3, at least on a quick vibes check. I can only say so much, having played so little gameplay. Is general battle like charge into each other shooting and then close for combat, then airstrike each other? General combat, I would say it's similar to Warhammer 3. You're naturally, if these abilities stay the same strength especially, you're naturally going to play it very similarly. Like, you're gonna move in with some tanky units, they're gonna group up, and then you're gonna smash them with AoE. By far, that is the most optimal strategy. I get criticized a lot for bringing this up because a lot of people, the first instinct is like, you don't have to do that. And you don't. And if it doesn't matter to you, that's fine. But by far, the best strategy is to group up your tanky units, have them blob up, and then nuke them. If that bothers you, take it up with creative assembly. My job is just to find it. And it's in this playtest, it's even more so than Warhammer 3 because of how strong these abilities are. I think the buff spells felt slightly more impactful than Warhammer 3. The units felt like, I don't know. At times it felt like they weren't doing a lot of damage. But if I compare it to Warhammer 3, I still think the kill ability is roughly the same. Like, how quickly would you expect a bunch of archers to kill an Ragnarok spider, right? You'll actually see me testing that out later, by the way. Are there improvements on AI tactics? No. So one of my biggest criticisms, one of the biggest critiques that I gave to Creative Assembly, look, the visuals are great. No one needs to tell you that. But the AI almost feels like a downgrade. I don't know if they're planning to release a smarter AI, but I saw it use literally 0 tactics. I can summarize the AI of each unit in a couple sentences. This guy moves forwards and shoots. The melee guys march forwards. They don't use cover. I don't think they'll play Eldar correctly. I don't think they'll play card correctly because they don't use cover. Their range units blob up while trying to move towards you. If you kite away, they don't spread out. They like enclose together because it's literally just a move command. The AI is by far the worst part about this playtest because it's also the least likely thing Creative Assembly is going to update. I'd be happy to be wrong. If they release an AI showcase thing being like, this is what we're planning for AI, sure. But this battle absolutely had no signs that they have changed anything on that front. Let me be clear, because I think that's actually very important. I gotta catch up with chat. Why the game feels slow, or at least slower than it should technically. Everyone is running, but it's in slow motion. I will say the game, like the movement of units, is very similar to it's like everything is kind of like Black Orc speed. I know what you mean by units move slower. I don't know Warhammer 40k lore enough to tell you if these are generally slower factions. But yeah, they're definitely a little slower. This is strafing, so you can move and shoot, but you move at like half speed. This is not their actual full speed. But there's nothing that I've seen so far that is like Slanesh speed. I guess some of the tanks and such move at like slow chariot speed. So generally it feels slower. I don't know if Tyranids are going to be like the fast faction in the game. Kind of hard to say. Maybe the Eldar are going to be like, you know, the 80 speed faction. But yeah, most of the like fast units that we've seen so far kind of feel like they're like 70 speed. Most of the infantry would kind of be similar to like a Black Orc or any armored infantry. That laser beam, by the way, it has 2 damage zones. So the center does a lot of damage, the radius doesn't, which is good, by the way. Creative Assembly is bringing back spells that have different damage zones. Right now in the current game, Pit of Shades does even damage to everything on the radius and the center. And that kind of feels weird sometimes. Same with like Flamestorm, same with all the spells. So it's cool to see that they're bringing that back. Is multiplayer still 4v4 max? Did not have access to multiplayer in this build. How did the ranged unit AI feel? So we did cover this. Does it feel different from Warhammer 3? Ranged unit AI where skirmish units have trouble shooting. So generally shooting is better. Line of sight for range units feels improved, but the AI still gets in each other's way. And yeah, it felt a little awkward. They didn't use cover, you know, that kind of stuff. It almost feels like they just ported the Warhammer 3 AI and then they modified it, but we can't know for sure. What about performance? Was it laggy? This was not run on my PC. It was run on their PCs, streamed to me. The performance was generally pretty good. It wasn't as good as Warhammer 3, but also performance is one of the last things that game companies work on most of the time, allegedly. So that's, I would say it's likely to get better over time. But as it stands, you know, it's fine on 1x speed. It lagged at 4x speed, which I usually don't get in Warhammer 3. How are you liking 40k? 40k, I will say, I will definitely enjoy playing. It will definitely be the game that I stream a lot. There are definitely some issues. But generally speaking, it's great. We're just nitpicking because you might as well bring that up. Also, by the way, this guy, the librarian, totally just punched this thing to death. The explosion, by the way, units, their death animations do a lot of damage. I think it straight up killed the guy from like 500 HP. Single entities still have a lot of HP, by the way. So this librarian had comparable amounts of HP to like a tank. So blobbing and AoEing is definitely still a thing in this build. 10,000%. Did they have different loadouts in this battle? I didn't really check much. It felt like if they did, I didn't really feel it much. It's really hard to tell just playing it casually. Nor did it matter very much, which I think is important. I know other channels definitely, like Zerkovich, Turin, whatever, they probably covered unit details more. I kind of want to go on vibes, because that's kind of what's important to me. And I will say, vibes wise, the way they balance the game, you don't notice what your units have. Like, honestly, this ranged infantry here had about the same impact that like an archer would in Warhammer. And I think they probably are an archer tier unit. I think these are like the lowest tier space marines you can get. So maybe it's apt. Maybe it is apt. But yeah, they felt very non-impactful compared to everything else. Are they making an effort to increase roleplay immersion with other stuff than customizations? Not entirely sure. It depends on what exactly you're looking for. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see any mechanics where you can customize the weapons, but maybe there are, maybe there aren't. I haven't been keeping up on that front. But generally speaking, they're pretty good about doing that. You can just look at the history of how they did it for Warhammer 3 and see if you're satisfied or not. But there was nothing that really jumped out at me, I guess I'd say. Easy to miss, though. Did you feel it's an engine upgrade, especially battles? Yeah, so it felt like okay, it felt like going from Dark Souls 3 to Elden Ring. if you played those games. It felt like, yes, it is technically an engine upgrade. Yes, there's a lot of cool new mechanics and whatnot. But at the core, it's the same gameplay. Like, it's a very familiar engine, I will say. It feels like a sibling, not even like a cousin. Like, it feels like Warhammer 3's older brother. I guess technically younger brother, but yeah, very similar. Here's destructible terrain, by the way. Did a little bit of damage to these guys, so that's pretty cool. So I'm like, ooh, destructible terrain, that's hype. I'm gonna try and target this building. So you see me selecting him, I target the building, I right click it. I right click it again. You see he's shooting at it now. And then he gets shot by some orc boys. And then he targets the orc boys back. And I'm like, no, shoot the building. I right click the building, and he's like, nope, you see how he turned? You see how he turned for a second? So that's a very important sign. Because I would be willing to bet money that will make it into launch. Unless Creative Assembly sees this video and they want me to lose a bet. But you see how it's kind of janky, right? How I like click the building and he wouldn't focus fire the building that I'm spamming right click on. So in the same way that Warhammer 3 has that unit jank, it doesn't have that finesse of like control on units. Where if you really want them to do something and you try to get them to do it, it just doesn't work. That's bad. That's genuinely a bad sign for like the super hardcore players. Because once you like, you know, your first 100 hours, who cares, right? But like if you really, if it bugs you in Warhammer 3, it's gonna bug you in this game. You see this hill? You see how I right clicked and they're moving towards a unit? And there's no indication that they were having a line of sight issue. They just start walking forwards. That's how you tell if you're having line of sight issues. This is going to be really annoying when you're playing Imperial Guard. I know, because the same issue exists in Warhammer 3. And they didn't do anything to improve line of sight. Like, you can't tell that the hill is blocking it. And the lighting doesn't show you that a hill is here. If this doesn't matter to you, that's totally fine. That's kind of not what this showcase is, well, that's not what my showcase is meant to do. You know, if you just want to be excited about the game, it's very exciting. I have to reiterate that. Otherwise, people are going to come after me being like, all he does is hate the game. I will love this game. It looks amazing. I am excited to play. I want to play it more. But the only way I can hope that there is change is by critiquing it as much as possible. Did you have a chance to play new endgame scenarios for Warhammer 3? That I have not. As soon as I am able to show it, though, I will. They just gotta get me access and all that and so on and so forth. As per usual, too, even if I did, I would not be allowed to say. That's just kind of how it works. But as soon as I'm able to, I will absolutely show it and judge and critique it. I did put a video out on the second channel talking about some of the new mechanics that I'm worried about. I'm actually, for anyone who has seen it, it's a controversial video. And a lot of people would disagree with me, rightfully so too. I feel like the 100 diplomacy thing they're doing for the end time scenario, also that damage is insane. That's a cataclysm level spell. But yeah, that video, I think it's crazy. So I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is, and I'm having someone mod it into the base game so that I can actually see the effects of 100 diplomacy and if it lets you ally with Skaven as the Empire. If it doesn't and I'm wrong, I'll make a correction video. But anyways, there's a lot of stuff in this showcase that is similar. That's why I brought it up. Where it's kind of like, it's worrying. It's worrying the direction that they're going for, which is kind of the direction they've always been going. Which is the, you know, it's like a swimming pool level of depth, right? Generally speaking, the Total War games are vast oceans in terms of like, you know, in terms of width. But how deep it is, how much you can actually get into the game once you get really interested in multiplayer or trying out challenge runs or what have you, you like immediately run into issues. I misclicked, by the way, because they flipped left click and right click for casting. So instead of casting on left click, it's right click now, which is really awkward. I'm sure they'll change that. It lacks a bit of ambition. I will say, yeah, like if you were expecting 40K to be a completely different experience and like mind-blowing, I will say it's definitely an upgrade. It's not like Dark Souls 2 to Dark Souls 3, right? Like it's definitely an entirely different thing. It's more different than Three Kingdoms was to Warhammer 3. But I don't think they're like completely innovating things, which is fine. I'm just setting expectations. Warhammer 3. Hate is good. Glazing gives us line of sight issues for years. I will say, one of my biggest regrets was just glazing the Warhammer 3 launch. I was but a young YouTuber. My channel had only just started picking up. And I saw Warhammer 3 and I fell for the hype. Because it was so hype getting early access to Warhammer 3 and playing it. So the only thing I did was talk about good things. I didn't even notice a lot of the bad things. And then yeah, we had line of sight issues for years. For years! And then they only recently fixed it. The only thing I hope is that if I bring up enough issues, they'll fix it before launch. and then things will be good. That's what I hope for. Dark Souls 2 is peak though. I will say Dark Souls 2 wasn't bad. I personally preferred 1 and 3 more, but that's a separate thing. Did it feel like it was punishing disengaging infantry from melee fights? So that's an interesting thing. The melee combat in this game, I don't know if it's because the enemy forces had no armor piercing or what. Melee feels... To call it garbage is a little too far. I'll call it garbage just to... just to amplify the point a bit. But seriously, melee feels like, even the greenskins, they kind of felt like wet noodles. I barely noticed the melee damage it did to me, and I barely noticed the damage it did to me while disengaging. They might have even been missing, kind of like in Warhammer 3. If you have a unit running fast enough, it can actually run away from the hitbox of units, or their damage box or whatever. Also, you see how like these guys are just forming up and then not going into melee with these guys? The AI sucks. And that I say unironically, the AI actually sucks. It is a downgrade from Warhammer 3. Even if it is technically an upgrade, vibes wise, it feels like a downgrade. I really hope Creative Assembly puts out a video that's like, our new AI system that only just finished development, that we for some reason didn't put in our big showcase. We're totally gonna have different AI for every faction. The greenskins will be more aggressive. The guard will be more defensive. The Eldari will kite more. And then I'll be like, wow, I can't believe it, Creative Assembly. I don't know why you didn't include that in the showcase, but wow, amazing. I guarantee you the AI that they have in this battle is going to be very close to the AI we get on launch. And you know, I hope I'm proven wrong, but it really felt like there was no AI. I'm not gonna lie. It was almost so little AI that it almost improves my hopes that we'll get better AI. The only reason, by the way, the AI didn't just make a mega blob was because of how the battle was designed, by the way. In my experimentation, how did rallying units feel? I'll get into that in a second. In my experimentation, so you see how in the beginning of the battle, they have guardsmen here, here, and here fighting greenskins? That naturally makes the AI spread out to the 3 flanks. But as soon as these guys die, the bad AI rears its ugly head, man. And it's back to the Warhammer 3 action. Except minus the flanking cavalry, because it didn't have flanking cavalry. How is it a downgrade from Warhammer 3? It's technically an upgrade. Vibes-wise, it's a downgrade. Because this game doesn't have, at least the units we had, it didn't have cavalry. So Warhammer 3, at least the cavalry's pre-programmed to flank you. I did not get flanked a single time by these units. Even though they have this little Jeep vehicle here, this thing, just look at it. What is it doing? It's not flanking, it's just marching forwards towards the closest units, right? Like, what are these guys doing? They just keep converging in a blob, even though they're not even in melee yet, right? Like, what is this? What is this, right? Now, I can't drop pod them because I don't have units close enough. But, like, there is no semblance of thought going on here, right? It's basically march forwards. If you have a problem with that, I would love if people complain about it enough for Creative Assembly to investigate smarter AI. You know, there'll always be pushback for people who worry that it gets a little too smart. I don't think it has to be brilliant. I just think it has to do a tactic. That's all we want. That's not too much, right? This looks rough. I don't want to overemphasize how bad the AI is, though. At the end of the day, if you enjoy Warhammer 3, you'll enjoy this game. If you're getting sick of Warhammer 3, like really sick of Warhammer 3, and its jank, and the bad AI and all that, and the late game, you might run it. You'll probably run into the same issues with this game. I can't say for sure, but like you'll probably run into it. So it really depends on where your stance is, right? This is showing again. It's really weird because like, so obviously that looks great, right? Big damage. You can see it takes out like half their HP. Yeah, CA really lean into the sandbox aspect more than the strategy aspect. This has been consistent. We should not be surprised. I'm just saying it out loud for you guys. But yeah, play it as a sandbox game. The strategy is okay. Redeem the stretch. Thank you. They look like Nurgle. In terms of speed, movement speed is really slow. Or are you talking about the bright yellowness? I will say these greenskins were really saturated. I think some other creators on their PCs, it wasn't as saturated. I don't know what's going on. I will say, when I was playing on low resolution, it was really hard to tell what was going on because everything was just yellow. I couldn't even see my own units. Like if you look at this blob here, can you even tell where my Marines are? It's like kind of hard to tell. It's a little awkward. But yeah, you can see the melee is very similar to Warhammer 3. There's just not that much going on. It's also really low DPS, similar to Warhammer 3. Which can be fine, but I do wonder how melee, like dedicated melee units will do. Like this guy over here, in multiplayer, this guy's gonna be so garbage. This guy in multiplayer is gonna be like a beast of Nurgle, man. He'll never get into any fight. Every faction has so much range, it's crazy. From a range gameplay standpoint, as a player though, I think the multiplayer skill ceiling has gone up. And that is exciting because of all the strafing and movement mechanics. But that means a lot of multiplayer is probably gonna feel closer to like High Elf versus Wood Elves. Yeah, it's gonna feel like High Elves versus Wood Elves for most of the games. There's no unit here that feels like a Wrathmonger in terms of damage. None of these greenskin units did I feel very punished for going into melee. Like you see these guys here? So that's my Lord. He's getting flamethrowered to death, my Librarian. He doesn't really care. Whoops. This guy doesn't really care. No sync animations. You know, they're just kind of smacking each other. Maybe that was a sync animation, I don't know. But yeah, you know. Melee oh, they glitched for a second there too. Melee combat felt okay. It was nothing crazy. It felt almost worse than Warhammer 3, but probably about the same. So that's something to look out for. What's the FPS? FPS felt fine, but this is playing on CA's machines. It's really hard to tell. I will say probably don't pay attention much to the like optimization, because that changes a lot before release, at least so I've heard. But at least in terms of the build that I played, felt about as smooth, like it felt only a little bit more laggy than Warhammer 3. I think if they optimize it even a little bit, it'll probably feel like Warhammer 3. Did you enjoy your experience with the game? Yes. That's the weird part. I enjoyed my experience playing it, despite having like 5,000 complaints. You see how easy it is to blob up the AI, by the way? I put down a drop pod of like my cheapest unit, basically an archer, and then with one ability I nuke like half the army. This is kind of crazy. This looks horrible. Depends on what you're looking for. There's definitely a lot to hate. But I would definitely play Warhammer 3 over this when it comes out. That is my opinion anyways. There's definitely stuttering. The camera doesn't have the smoothing that I usually have in Warhammer 3. They just didn't have that in, so it's going to be a little bit more jittery. And obviously it's not as optimized as a release game. So if that does matter to you, then yes. But I'm pretty sure they might have already said that they're gonna keep optimizing it before launch, so. Eh. Medieval 3. I wonder how Medieval 3 will be different though. If there's not good AI in this game, who's to say there's gonna be good AI in Medieval 3, right? I guess if Medieval 3 doesn't have big abilities like this, that's naturally gonna solve one of my complaints. Does cover matter at all? Yeah, you see what I mean? That's one of the things I was talking about. You may have noticed I have not used cover like at all, right? The greenskins obviously are a melee faction. Cover's not gonna matter as much against them. But like even against their shooting units, it just, I don't know, it just didn't really feel very impactful. Like literally everything breaks cover. You drive through it, it breaks. You shoot at it, it breaks. You use an ability, it breaks. Cover feels so flimsy. So even if it was good, it basically disappears the moment anything gets into a fight. So I don't really know how I feel about it. Bro, it's the same AI. I know, right? Definitely the most disappointing part. I think I have some notes here. Yeah, gameplay feels just as shallow as Warhammer 3. Let's see here. AI is really behind. Combined arms. Yeah, that was a big thing. You'll also notice I'm not really using my units efficiently. And we're able to win this battle. So yeah, like kind of like you know, I'm sure they don't want to make this battle just impossible to win or even very difficult, but we're pretty handily able to win. I think in this case though, I don't know if I win this one. So this is testing out, you know, these little tiny marines against this giant dude and how the combat works. See, they're like shooting their flamethrowers at it. He has this big old attack animation. Even he doesn't do a lot of melee damage though. Everything feels like there's no melee damage. There's a lot of explosions, but like the melee damage feels really low on the greenskins for some reason. Space Marines just kind of punched it to death, which felt weird. It felt like they shouldn't have been able to do that, but I don't know my 40k lore. Surely they kept the AI simple for the demo to land those satisfying bombardment abilities. Totally. And they're just saving the actual amazing AI for later. Honestly, I think 40k would have been a perfect game to have different AI for each faction. But I doubt they're gonna do that. CA's always been very stingy when it comes to changing their AI. Probably because AI is just harder to develop. Great screenshot, by the way. Do lords have ability trees like Warhammer 3? I was not able to test that. We only got a very small snapshot of campaign, and it looked very unfinished. So who knows where that's going. I think some other creators covered that though, so you might be able to find it. Are you satisfied with the combat camera? Or you think you'll use debug camera cheese if people find one? Combat camera felt okay. It zoomed out enough where you probably don't need debug camera. Nevertheless, if debug camera gets found, it'll probably still be used just because it's an advantage. But this camera doesn't feel as restricted as Warhammer 3. You can fly around into the fog of war, I believe, and it doesn't stop you. Which is like the biggest issue with the Warhammer 3 camera. So I think it's fine. When is the official release set to be? I don't think they announced it. Maybe the orc AI is stupid on purpose. Now that would be the sickest thing ever. Creative assembly with the bamboozle. Like, you see, we did have custom AI. These orcs don't have a general, and that's why they're running like a headless chicken. And then when we actually fight space marines, they're like kiting you and splitting off to kite you off, or to cut you off from kiting. They're like focus firing you with the proper units, you know. Their anti-tanks go for your tanks. Their anti-infantry go for your infantry. A man can dream. A man can certainly dream. They literally said that for the demo. Did they? Look, if they said it, then it's fine. I can't watch all of their content. But if they said it's genuinely the case, that's fine. I will say this orc AI is a lot more headless chicken than I would like. It's very headless chicken. In that, like, the range still shouldn't be blobbing up for no reason, right? Yeah, there are flanking bonuses. Redeem to hydrate, thank you. Somehow I believe Tyranids will be way more killable in melee combat versus Space Marines. I don't know enough about the Lord's comment. It is meant to be a tutorial demo for new players, so probably the AI will get better. It's really hard to say. The ways that the AI is dumb doesn't feel intentional. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like a gameplay thing. It's just the AI is dumb. Like, you can say the blobbing can be tuned up a bit more to showcase the cool explosions. This is an interesting test of the AI where I go into the backfield and see how they react. And yeah, it doesn't feel intentionally dumb. It just feels dumb. Now, if you want to be optimistic, I'm not going to stop you. But, like, I don't know. I can't find anything. Unless they said specifically this is an early access AI. In which case it means they don't have the AI done yet. Which is also sketchy. Because, like, these things take a lot of time to develop and balance. It takes a lot of time to develop and balance. So, if they're going to finish so late in the development cycle, it will probably still have issues, right? Compared to if they're like, this is the main thing we're focusing on. But hey, you know, I'm happy to be wrong. Redeem 10 squats, all right. Should have disabled it for the showcase, but you know what? I gotta make sure I'm not sedentary. This is a good time to read comments. What about morale shock? Morale didn't feel impactful very much at all. Yeah. I don't think Space Marines can route, by the way. I think Space Marines are unbreakable. I don't know if they have a mechanic. I don't know if they have a mechanic that makes them not route. And instead they get debuffs or something. My units never routed. They basically fought to the last. The Greenskins did route. And morale shock was really weird. So in Warhammer, melee combat is king. Melee combat is quality. So you can rear charge these guys, right? In Warhammer 3. You can use range damage to hurt them. You can use terror bombing tactics. Maybe it's because I'm still new to the game, so I don't know how to exploit it well enough. But I didn't really feel much. Also, this is example of dumb AI. Now, this could be a fun version of dumb AI, where the tank gets ahead of itself and then just dies. Totally fine. But if you're a lot more skeptical, you'd be a little worried. You can see it's kind of running around my guys, getting shot up like crazy. See the range damage, even with all these guys shooting it, it took a while to take out. So generally, lethality feels a little lower. But honestly, if you compare it to like a bunch of low tier units shooting like an Arachnarok spider, it's actually kind of similar. Does terrain matter? Yeah, terrain matters the same amount as Warhammer 3. Cover basically doesn't matter, at least from what I could tell. Abilities just trumped. Like everything breaks terrain, so it didn't really feel that impactful. They did say in the showcase they did earlier this year that the AI was just given a charge order and it wasn't the full release. Okay. You know what? That's good then. That's good then. I will take it. In that case, we can lay off on the AI then. I don't believe them. I think I don't blame anyone for still being skeptical either. It's really... You know, I can feel a little bit more better about that though. At least we're not spreading misinformation from here on. I do wonder... I do wonder where it will end up then, right? Like, how much time are they going to have to actually test out a fully complete AI for this game? I don't know. It's definitely... It can't be that high on their priority list, right? But at least they said that they'll work on it. So we'll just we'll lay off on that front. Huffing opium. If they're adding and removing systems in alpha, refining the AI seems like a bad choice. If the systems can still change. Oh, okay. So we're talking like game development cycle thing. This might be a normal thing. I guess it depends on how they choose to code it. I'll say I moved from like a 3 out of 10 to like a 5 out of 10 on my stance on AI, knowing that they mentioned it at least. Kind of like a wait and see situation. It's rough because we can't comment and give feedback on it. At least we can show that if the AI is anything close to this, we would all be very disappointed. Total War 40k2 is where it's at. We'll give it a 3. They definitely man, I swear, if CA just made Warhammer 1 and didn't go for 2 and 3, would solve so many issues with bugs. Anyway, so this is my tank just driving in to attack this guy. You can see when it runs over infantry, it does do damage. I think. I don't think that was shooting damage, but like it does nothing, and the charges feel super lackluster. So this is not a steam tank. This is closer to like I don't know. Everything, even the land ship has a pretty devastating charge in Warhammer. It was really weird piloting the tank. I have never had a unit feel so lackluster in melee. Probably by design. It's a tank in the more traditional context. So, you know, maybe you shouldn't expect it to be a thing. But anyways, I think it's an interesting look at it. It's like gyrocopters. Kind of. Except it had the mass to push through units. Which is interesting. That's a Luminarch charge. I think the Luminarch, it has less mass, but damage-wise, yeah, we're getting closer. I don't even think you can give it an actual, like, attack command. You can highlight the button here, like you saw I just did, but it doesn't actually... It has no animations tied to it. Heroes are still OP. Yeah, so you can see my librarians just punching this to death. Space Marines also have regen, by the way. Like, I think almost across the board, I noticed they were regenerating. Must be a lore thing. But it made the Librarian very strong. The guy can just sit there and just fight forever. Blood and gore is included, yeah. But yeah, I noticed when I selected him, his HP was slowly going up. Thunder Barge, yeah, the tank's like a ground Thunder Barge, exactly. Oh my gosh, you got it right. Also, this is a cool strafing thing. Strafing is a mechanic I like a lot because it's a very high skill ceiling mechanic, and it gives you a lot more unit control. So you see how I can keep the tank facing this direction? So I believe it's about 50% speed reduction, but your unit will continue facing the direction that you want it to. I think this is the most exciting thing that I saw in the playtest, because it shows that they are actually looking into unit control. So that's pretty cool. Stompa isn't stomping the Libby. That was weird, yeah. Yeah, the Stompa looks like it should be able to totally just solo this guy. But it did not. This is probably one of the best buff spells, that middle one. Increase the melee attack. I think I tried dropping a bunch of Marines around the Stompa and bullying it. This is me just testing out units. In the big battle, you don't really get to see how units perform and how they act. This is a much better way to judge it when you have smaller battles. I think, was that thing staggering a lot to cannon shots? If it's really easy to stagger units, that might be an issue. At the very least, that's just a variable they can tune down. The tank's low collision damage seems like a balancing. It could be balanced, but I don't know if that's the direction they want to go. Like, I don't know if I show Creative Assembly the tank doing no damage, if they'll want to, if they're like, oh no, that's intended, or if they'll be like, oh, we'll change that, right? It's really hard with alpha builds. You know, unless I actually have the developers in the room with me, you can never really tell. So another wait and see. Let's see here. All right. CA streaming their own thing right now? Oh, interesting. Are they streaming an AI showcase? You can see animations there. So animations, I know some people have criticized them. I usually don't look at them much. That's just not really my thing. I think some people said that a lot of them have too many shared animations and it's making them look really static. So this is me just marching my army forwards, seeing how that goes. Could you stay out of range of the Stompa the whole fight? It does have a big cannon. Basically all units have... Oh, you see the lag while that building was collapsing? We'll see if they optimize that. At least in this build there was lag, but that's one of the things I'm less worried about. But yeah, so what I really wanted to see is what happens if I just A move into this blob and just let the AI come at me. Where's the red laser beams? Yeah, I think this is a Games Workshop thing. Didn't they also remove the red laser beams and does Dawn of War have red laser beams, or is it just 40k Total War? I remember there was a theory going around that Games Workshop didn't want the red laser beams anymore, but I don't know. I don't know enough about this topic. Day one mod for sure, absolutely. It looks like CA is just doing the same demo I did. I'd be real interested to see people ask about it. So this is interesting. I believe this is the one crash I got. I would personally not judge alpha footage for crashing. If you want to, it's, you know, I'm not gonna stop you. This is me testing out drop pods and then just meleeing the guy to death with the melee buff. These tiny marines are surprisingly good at doing damage to this guy. But yeah, I basically just drop pod around him and just go for the snipe. Definitely an interesting tactic. What's the point of buildings if they last for 10 seconds with map destructibility? Yeah. We went over it earlier, but there's a crash. There's a crash. I'll just skip ahead, so I have to reboot it. But yeah, buildings die super fast. I would say that whole system needs a retune if they want it to feel impactful. You don't care about red or yellow, you just want actual laser beams. They are called las guns. It feels weird that we don't get lasers. But yeah, so this is me just quickly going over customization stuff. Generally, Creative Assembly's track record with stuff like this is good. If you just want cool stuff, Creative Assembly is the company you go for. You can go crazy with the customization. You can get the emblem, you can do whatever. This is personally not my cup of tea, nor what I would actually, you know, be focused on, because they do it pretty well every time. And it's never really what causes underlying issues with their games. Feels like I'll pick this game up 3 years after release on a 90% Steam sale. Yeah, I will say this playtest, it didn't knock it out of the park, right? My overall vibe with the playtest was like, with the playtest, not like a game review, but like a 7 out of 10 experience. The underlying, you know, issues that we ran into really caused issues. But like where the game will actually be in the future, I don't know. Dawn of War did have red lasers on Imperial Guard. Only in Dawn of War 1, right? In Dawn of War 4, I don't know if we've seen that. I don't know. Our battle brothers are ready to make planetfall. No, nobody is worried about customization as long as it's actually included. Yeah. Dawn of War 4 looks better. It's a different game. Unless you're talking about just visual aesthetics, in which case completely up to you. But yeah, so this is campaign gameplay. Now, this is an interesting thing. Obviously, this is still very early in development. But you have like the big old globe, you have a map, and movement is weird. So you move into like provinces. You don't have the granular movement that you have in Warhammer 3. I think this is fine. I think the granular movement, when we talk about actual like the depth of the game, how interesting it is as a mechanic, I think it is not that functional. So you can see, yeah, he just walks in there and then like suddenly, because they're in the same province, he attacks. Testing out the auto-resolve, seeing how it is. In this case, the auto-resolve was very advantage for us. But yeah, from a sandboxy feel, I think the vibes is worse. From a gameplay feel, I think it will generally run into fewer issues in the future. because the AI is not going to stay like 1 pixel away from your army and you can't actually fight them. So kind of like, it's pros and cons, right? The fact that the battle map is a globe, by the way, that feels... It feels like it's not actually a globe because of this. Like, you can't go through the north and then loop around to the other side of the world. You can kind of see there's like a dotted line that connects you to, you know, across the continent. So functionally, it is just flat. It looks fine though, and as a way to get into battles, as a means to get into the actual core gameplay, I think it is better. But from a sandbox feels and vibes kind of look, I think it is downgrade. Sea air flat earthers. Army movement in Total War is one of the weaker parts of the campaign map. I like that they're trying new things. Yeah. I think it is way easier to balance too. Like way easier to balance. You can make it where the AI will just naturally give you better fights. You can see the FPS dropping a little here. That's not just a stream. But yeah, the AI will be able to get better fights because it's just more streamlined. And tactically it's basically the same, right? Unless you really care about grouping a bunch of armies together and using weird ambush shenanigans. But that's not really tactics, that's more cheese. Like, I don't know. I don't really look at the current Warhammer 3 campaign map and think like this is peak StarCraft tactics. I'm like outplaying the AI with my maneuvering. Right? It's usually just like, do I have enough movement range to attack that settlement in 1 turn? Hell yeah, I do. And that's it. But if you do care about it, then there's your info. You don't like the visual curve though of the planet? I will say it will make it a little harder to actually read the map and what's going on, because you kind of have to spin the planet around. Maybe that'll be awkward in the future, I don't know. Eventually, once we get proper early access, that is something I would like to investigate. Just playing a really long campaign and seeing the issues I run into. Yeah, settlements are 1 turn apart in Warhammer. Maybe in like Medieval 3 they'll do it different. But yeah, campaign, you know, when I played 3 Kingdoms, I really noticed how little Warhammer 3 leaned into the campaign gameplay. From what I understand, historical titles lean into that a lot more. So if that's what you're looking for, Medieval 3 is not a terrible decision. But if you don't mind it, I still think 40k has a lot to offer, at least based on what I've seen. Tanks work as a chariot? No. Tanks work like thunder barges. Tanks work like thunder barges of the ground. Do not use them as chariots. You will see me attempt to use them as chariots. They are not chariots. As you can see here, he kind of bumped into one of the orcs, and then it stopped. I will say the mass on units is really high, so units don't get stuck on each other in 40k, even infantry. Now this doesn't mean your infantry can just straight up phase through other units, but when it comes to disengaging, they really do not get stuck on each other. It feels like mass is cranked up to like 1 million. You can see the greenskins are kind of aggroing on my tanks. So this is a really important thing to pay attention to gameplay wise. First of all, they're not doing any damage. Now apparently this is because the AI has been very simplified for this showcase. I still think it's a bad sign, but maybe there'll be change. But yeah, they just kind of suck at chasing the tanks. They're really bad at sticking on to these guys. This is a sign that we might get the Doomstack single entity gameplay that Warhammer 3 has, where if you just make an army of these tanks, I really doubt the AI will be able to deal with it. I really doubt the player will be able to deal with it unless they bring very specific tools to stop these tanks. But like, seriously, if you control them well, you just can't pin them down. When you bring it to the extreme, like let's say multiplayer, what role is melee infantry gonna be able to do if they get completely wrecked by these things, right? We could easily see a cheese build forming, like Warhammer 1 launch, where you just take a bunch of single entities, and if they brought infantry, well, they're screwed. They're a million times screwed. Also, that laser beam. So if you do aim it properly, it does one-shot this guy. And then you get a cool little explosion. That extra effect there is a bug. Or at least not intended to be so glaring, I believe. So don't worry about that too much. But yeah, like look at the chasing on these guys, right? They're like, they take out the cleaver and they just like run, but they're not actually attacking. I don't even know if they're moving faster on the charge. Now they're attacking. If I'm moving at half speed, are they gonna attack? Like, not really, right? Now, this is alpha footage. But like, this is just normal gameplay, right? Like, I'm not trying to break the game here. I'm just trying to get cinematic shots of my tanks. But there's like a few weird things. And I think even if they made the AI smarter, like, I don't think that fixes this issue. This is totally something that could just stay in the game for years too if they don't pay attention. If they don't decide to fix it now, right? It's just like one of those subtle things that will eat away at the game over the years. Yeah, okay, I know they're like shooting and throwing grenades, right? But like, isn't this supposed to be a melee unit? Like, what about the melee units that don't have grenades? Like, I don't think the Tyranids are gonna have you know, the same mechanics. Or like, I don't know, unless melee just isn't supposed to matter for tanks. Maybe it doesn't. But like, it just kind of shows that like melee is very much taking a backseat. Now, if they totally just lean into that and they're like, yeah, melee is just not really a big thing, I think that is probably fine as long as it is very clear that is their intention. You can body block units and then laser beam. But yeah, it's kind of just like kind of like a feel it out. I don't think it's a doomsday situation. But like, it means if they ever release an exclusively melee infantry unit, it's gonna run into a lot more jank. I don't know. It could be fixed though by just like giving everyone grenades. But like, I feel like melee is a big part of tactical play in 40k. These guys are cool, by the way. They teleport onto the battlefield. You can teleport them out. See how easy it is to break cover, by the way? But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. If you really like the melee gameplay in Warhammer 3, you're probably not getting much of it in 40k. Most Tyranid units, yeah. If I was a huge Tyranid fan, I would be a little worried. I'm not gonna lie, I would be a little worried. It's just kind of like, is it gonna be janky? Because some of the units are like, can get pretty fast, right? Are you just gonna get kited into oblivion? Melee is super critical in 40k, both on tabletop and in older games. Yeah. I'd accept it a little bit more if it was just, you know, just these guys are maybe less crazy in melee. But the greenskins is weird. This is interesting. So you go to this part of the battle. So this is where they are using cover effectively. It looks like cover is doing a lot of work here. But this is one of those rare situations where no one's using tanks or abilities. This is a Lehman Russ. It actually has some placeholder stuff here. Pretty fun to see. It shows this is very much alpha. A lot can change between now and launch. The question is what? Cat would be so happy if melee is a non-factor. Yeah. We'll have to see. Yeah, the Lehman Russ just straight up does not care about those guys. So that felt kind of like more of a hard counter. I do really wonder though, like the orc units felt very lackluster, but that could just be a balancing thing. No one's gone to play as the greenskins yet, right? Each knob in an orc unit can have anti-tank melee capabilities that also shreds marines. Okay. It's something that is easily missed. So, you know, it could be here. If you are bothered by my overly nitpickiness, by the way, I did mention earlier, it is just to flag as many things as possible. So that if, you know, worst or best case scenario, Creative Assembly already knows about the issues. Like, I don't think me being critical is going to reduce sales of the game in any meaningful fashion. But it might alert them of something that they don't know. So I'm just going to be hypercritical. Just in case. Because this is kind of like a pivotal time where we can make the most impact. Apologies if it does ever get grating. Like I did say earlier, I did really enjoy the showcase. But there's so much stuff. If it, because like the game's probably coming out next year, right? It has to come out next year, right? How much can you develop in 1 year? How much can you develop? They haven't even really shown, well, I guess they have shown other battle maps, but this is a lot. This is a lot. See, showing off a new map, possibly worth a bit of react time. Here, let me boot it up.
And we can see as well, we spoke about...
Oh, okay. I knew it. I knew they were gonna release a Dunes of Cain type map. Here. Let me pause this real quick. So you know what I was talking about with line of sight earlier, right? And how maps can have really slight hills. So this is on their stream right now. This is a perfect example. The way line of sight works, you can't see me. The way line of sight works in the game right now, it is not capable of easily telling you. Like, you see how this hill is like slightly curved? 1000% units are going to walk into melee because you didn't realize a hill was there. 10,000%. 1,000,000%. They would need to do some pretty crazy UI changes. You know what would be cool though? There's a little pop-up that shows up when a unit is being flanked. It'd be cool if instead of marching forwards, you could have it where the unit just says like line of sight blocked when you give a right click and then they don't move. That would honestly be way cooler. and way more functional. But they're not going to change it unless I complain, I guarantee it. You want Necrons and Minotaurs? What's a Minotaur? I assume you're talking about 40k still. Alpha would have been like 4 years ago. This is beta. That's true. Beta is the new pre-release. Alpha is the new beta. Obviously, there's still stuff to develop, but yeah, this is much closer to beta than alpha. If this was alpha, like, I don't think they can do huge sweeping changes. Would be happy to be wrong, but since we're at the promotional footage stage. Oh man, I really wonder where AI is going to get at the end of the day. So this is me skew deploying, by the way. So I'm basically stress testing the game's mechanics and so on. Chaos cultists, the bad guardsmen. Minotaurs equal High Lords, Lapdog, Space Marine chapter. Huh. Don't mind me looking here for a bit. Hello. Yeah, enjoy the show. All we need is Tyranids and Thousand Suns. I will say, the DLC is looking pretty good. The amount of stuff they can add to this game is crazy. From what little I know about 40k lore. At the end of the day, you know, I know some people are either pure historical fans or even just pure Warhammer fantasy fans. I know some people that are like, I'm not that excited for 40k. I prefer fantasy. I'm pretty sure, I am like 99% sure that when this game launches, it will be the game of the channel. From a business standpoint, it makes sense, but also I think I will probably have a good amount of fun with this game. Just really hope it doesn't just really hope it's not ripe with issues. Fingies crossed, people. Cross your fingies. Rattling Gunners' biggest enemy is a very small hill. Yeah, this battle map, the hills are very clear, right? So you can tell because there's water here, it leads up to a ramp, and then it's flat where the buildings are. But the CA is not always going to design battle maps well. Even if they design battle maps well now, 10 years down the line, they're going to forget about the core tenets of battle map design. And then it's going to be garbage. You can also see the falling debris. I think it killed that Space Marine. It's weird. Cover can even be a liability when it gets destroyed. There's really not a lot of good reason to stay in cover. Because if you stay, you'll take damage. And then you kind of lose the entire benefit of it anyways. So that was me trying to use cover. And it's just not very good. Generally speaking, kiting is better. This is a melee faction. Who knows what it's going to be like when you're fighting guardsmen. Maybe it'll be way more impactful, but... yeah, kind of awkward. It's a CA game at release. It's going to be rife with issues. Yeah. That's kind of, you know... that's kind of where I see it going. But I will fight against it nonetheless. Yo, I'm looking forward to Dawn of War 4. I think it's good that they're delaying it. Game delays are good in that it shows the developer cares a little bit more about the game. It also means that there's a lot of issues, but it's very normal to have game delays. I wonder, you know, I wonder where 40k will go. Anyways, so this is my drop pod hopping. So he wasn't in range earlier, and then I dropped a bunch of Marines over here. That let me drop pod here. And then I'm like, just kill it. Melee the thing to death. I will say, as much as melee doesn't feel very good for the orcs, it feels like the Space Marines can get a good amount of damage in melee. Although in this case, you kind of see, I'm pretty sure I right-clicked this guy, and they weren't doing much. You can see the glorious buff spells. So this is a combat buff. It lasts 30 or 25 seconds. I dropped it on these Marines to melee. It didn't do much, but admittedly, these are all ranged specialist Marines. I guess you shouldn't expect archers to do well in the fight. But there's kind of your base point. You will always encourage any studio to take their time to do it right. Yeah. Anyways, buff spells felt very okay. One of them gives a 25% speed buff, which is nice. Warhammer Total War generally leans closer to like 10% buffs. They've been getting more used to adding 25% buffs recently. And I think it's a good thing. It actually feels a little bit more impactful. You love how in this game the models are not goofy, like in Dawn of War 4. Wasn't Dawn of War 3 like everyone was like anime running and like jumping around doing crazy acrobatics or something? I feel like I remember someone saying that was the main complaint of Dawn of War 3. This game is very grounded. I would say, oh, this is a weird thing. So explosions, you see how it hit these greenskins 3 times and they get back up? They're doing the thing in Warhammer 3. So knockdowns, getting knocked down gives you damage and vulnerability. You know, for balance it makes sense. Otherwise the explosion would just actually straight up kill everyone. But it's also kind of weird to get nuked from orbit, and it's like, hell yeah. I was lying on the floor. I ain't taking damage. I don't know how I feel about that. I think I'd rather they just tune down the damage of explosions. Or just balance it in another way. I don't know, there's a lot of ways to go about it, but... yeah, it's a little strange. They should really get rid of that. It's so stupid. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if they just got rid of it. I don't see a huge benefit to being invulnerable when you're lying on the floor. Like, if you're worried AoE is too good, just nerf the AoE. But on a personal standpoint, it bothers me less than other issues. Totally fine if it bothers you, though. This is the time when we make some noise. Let Creative Assembly know what bothers us and what doesn't. This is me trying to drop pod a unit after all my guys died. This is definitely going into unintended territory for the playtest. But it just default dropped them here. Kind of a weird thing. AoE, Age of Empires? Age of Empires 40k? Direct explosion should do crazy damage, then nerf the AoE. I think that'd be a fine way to go about it. This is what I mean when I say it feels like a sister engine. There's a lot of holdover from Warhammer 3. Like, I don't think if they were making an entirely new engine from scratch, if they would include knocking down invulnerability. So we can presume this engine is kind of just like a branch of some sort. I don't know. So that's a strafing mechanic. So you can see. Oh, did that orc just drop kick the Space Marine? Okay, so you can see there are charge animations here. They are able to charge the strafing Marines. It's not very effective, but they are able to make contact. That's actually something I was really wanted to pay attention to. So this is me taking cover. The proper true gameplay comes out when you're trying to micro individual units. That shot totally missed. See, these guys are taking a while to actually get into cover. But there they are now. And then we're going to see how long the cover lasts. Once again, abilities are the best thing ever in terms of power, strength. They get knocked around by explosions, which knocks them past the cover. I don't know if that removes their bonuses though. They're certainly still taking a lot of damage. And then the question is, like, why am I using cover when I could be retreating at the same time? Yeah, I don't know. It also didn't give them that much protection. I could have put them in this warehouse, but then it might have collapsed in on them. So I would say cover definitely needs like a big rebalancing. As it is designed now, there is like no power fantasy that comes from using this. It feels almost like a detriment. So if you look at this big stompy guy, he marches in. I right click him, I go into melee. Yeah. It'd be funny if everyone was just doing backflips. You can see the combat. It is the combat when you zoom in, it is basically the same as Warhammer 3, but for some reason it just feels worse. I don't know what it is about the combat, but it just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel as good. Maybe it's a unit counter thing, I don't know. Just can't really get my guys to feel like they're doing much. They made everything insanely heavy, nothing runs. Yeah, I think the charge bonus units get, like the speed bonus they get from charging, I think they removed it or toned it down heavily. They might have toned it down by a lot. Because, yeah, like when we saw those orc boys charging, it felt slower than black orcs, right? Am I going crazy? Sound effects? Sound effects hit very hard. Sound effects are great. I think it captures it just fine. That is probably the #1 thing that CA would want to work on. But yeah, I think charges could be faster. How's progression gonna work? I presume similar to Warhammer 3. I don't think they actually showed proper progression. So that advanced ability is only available on the, I think they're called intercessors. So they just get a speed boost. Helps them run around the battlefield a little better. And you can select all your units and all the abilities show up here, which I think is a solid UI upgrade. So this is me trying out corner camping. I really wanted to see what, you know, a true Warhammer / Total War veteran would do. We've all been there, all right? Maybe we don't corner camp nowadays, but anyone who's played any amount of Warhammer has totally fallen to the corner camping strategies before. And as a true Total War player, it is my responsibility to show off what this kind of gameplay even looks like, how it feels, if there are systems in place to dissuade it. Now, I will say, if they go with this thing where you start with some allied units at the beginning of the fight, that would give you a reason to try and defend them. Right now, it's just a bunch of guardsmen, so who really cares? But if there were actually some impactful units that I wanted to defend, that would actually be a really good nerf to corner camping. See, my units are shooting here. Look at them go. They need tuning of the animations. Yeah, animations are kind of weird. Sometimes they just kind of pivot. Why not just use hexagonal maps? At the end of the day, the white line It's just a hard wall that you get on every single map, and it is very strong. So greenskins have this cool ability that is basically a big old nuke that drops on you guys. And my glorious cover that I tried using is suddenly entirely gone. So this is not... This tells me, right? So the person who designed this battle was more interested in the flare and the cool looking explosions than cover-based gameplay, right? Now you can use the explosion as cover. The terrain gets changed. It creates cover. So I guess that's okay. But obviously, this shows what Creative Assembly is trying to do. They're trying to make a cool game. They're not trying to make the ultimate strategic game. That is fine. I'm just saying what they are doing so you know. Yeah, it did create a crater. So I guess that's fine. I guess I still have cover. So you know what? I guess it's not the end of the world. I guess it's not the end of the world. The cover is still there. It just kind of got shifted. Do all bombardments do it? Or do small bombardments just break the cover? The shading? The shading... I'm not sure. I will say, like, the coloring on units is very strong. I don't know if this is the final coloring. Like, these greenskins are really yellow. But I don't know if they were this yellow on other people's PCs. It's kind of hard to say. Now, this was mentioned earlier. Apparently, they are looking on changing the AI. For the demo, they gave the AI Unga Bunga behavior because they wanted to show off the explosion gameplay. I think that is that's an okay decision, but it shows that they are not focusing on the AI. So if they run into issues with the development, this is what you're getting. It is very straightforward. They walk forwards, they blob, they get hit by explosions, but they take no damage because they're on the floor. We'll see where it ends up, honestly. 1 year is still a lot of time. Also, you can drop multiple pods at the same time. Yeah. It's really hard to say. It's really hard to say. Because they do have a bad track record. Anyways, drop pods are cool. So you can just drop them in. Dropping in your range units into melee, they do take a lot of damage from melee. That is important to note. These guys can shoot now. Line of sight looking good. I will say generally, in Warhammer 3, I have a much harder time getting my units to just shoot. In 40k, consistently, my units could shoot. Outside of like the odd hill that I don't notice, it is definitely way more forgiving. So that's plus. That's definitely a plus. The new 40k people are gonna taste Creative Assembly mismanagement. Yeah. They'll have to go through the same process all of us had. It would be crazy though, man. Imagine if like we get the actual pre-release game and it's just completely different. That would be the greatest comeback in history. Anticity, do you think they'll port the 40k ability of units being able to shoot? Wait, 40k ability of units being able to shoot when you ask them to into Warhammer 3? No. Absolutely not. I don't think they're gonna port it. If they could, they would have. Like, it has been a thing people have been complaining about for a long time. 40k has been in development for a long time, obviously. And during that overlap period, they did not do any such porting. In fact, I think they accidentally added more issues at one point to range stuff. I think it would just have to be an individual thing and people would have to complain about it. They will absolutely do it. So here's an example. I don't condone review bombing. Don't do review bombing. But absolutely, if it does happen, right? If people cared about it enough to like riot about it, they would absolutely make the change. As much as I don't condone review bombing, absolutely, when Legend of Total War complains about stuff, things get done surprisingly quickly. There's a reason why I put out very public videos when I have complaints about stuff. Because it's just straight up the most likely way to get things changed, rather than just reviewing it privately or giving feedback privately. So the thing is how much it matters to like the wider group. I think that's kind of what mostly determines it, and I think that's a fine way of determining it. Just kind of the process to get there is a little rough, right? Like, I don't like putting out hypercritical videos, but I feel like I am being trained by Creative Assembly to do such things because, unfortunately, it is the only way. Yeah, very easy for them to dismiss things. Now, alternatively, like I think me talking about the end times crises in Warhammer 3 that's coming out with the new DLC. I put out a video. It has gotten a lot of traction, but there's also a lot of pushback, right? So there's people that don't agree with my opinions, and they want more data to know if it is truly something to worry about or not. And I think that is good, right? When things go public, they're able to see what the wider opinions are, not just the opinions of a single person. And if I am totally wrong, I think that is a good success story. So we'll really have to see. We'll really have to see. Anyways, that's kind of how we're gonna go about things for the next while. The end times commentary secretly got me on the warning list. I think they're already naturally cautious of what I say just because I am a super hardcore player. I am not their intended audience. In fact, I would go as far as to say, if you are in it for the strategy gameplay, you're probably not part of their intended audience. If I had to think about what their core audience is, it's the sandbox people, right? And they should probably not cater fully to me, otherwise they would just be making a completely different game. Such is the complexities of being a developer. Librarian, by the way, this guy's indestructible, man. He just straight up will not die. I heard some people say that the lords and such are a little less tanky than Warhammer 3. At least maybe some speculation on that. No. The tanky foot characters are just as tanky as in Warhammer 3. I just dropped a bunch of bombardment straight on top of this guy's face. He did not die. He's been sitting in combat getting shot at 24/7. He does not give a crap. Legend is a terrible frontman for the franchise. I will say Legend is probably closer to their core audience than I am, but still definitely not the core audience. He is also, you know, very opinionated, which leads to a lot of issues. Although I'm not entirely anti-Legend either. It's kind of weird. Now that I've worked for CA, has anyone noticed when I first started making Total War content, I used to be happy-go-lucky streamer. As time has gone on, I have become more and more like Legend. I don't know if I like that. But it is something that naturally happens because of how Creative Assembly interacts with me. It is just kind of the natural response. So, take that how you will. Take that how you will. It's strange. He's been beaten down by the world. Yeah. Yeah, we all carcinize into a crab shape. That is Legend of Total War. We all become Legend. I noticed Turin has gone the different way. He's taken the much more healthy perspective of just not caring anymore. I think the only thing we really see Turin push for is like, he doesn't even talk about game balance that much, right? He complains about it, but he's not trying to make a change. Those guys did not have a charge animation, right? There was no charge animation there, despite me trying to give one. But yeah, I think my personality, I tend towards trying to make the change a lot more, which is probably less healthy. I'll talk to a therapist about it. But I think the more you try to make a change on a game that is fundamentally not designed to be your game specifically, the more frustration you'll run into. This is me trying to force path my Marines through infantry. You can't do this in Warhammer 3 with infantry. Even with monstrous infantry, it's a little awkward. In this case, these guys don't give a crap. You know, they're punching heads. They're doing great. You know, that's pretty cool. It still doesn't feel... I don't know what it is. The melee combat just doesn't speak to me. I think it's because of the charges. Because, yeah. Melee combat's very similar. Range, though, look at that line of sight. Now, this is one of the big W's, all right? If you want to know one thing to be excited for 40k, I have units in melee, and my range units are shooting no problem, okay? Revolutionary. It only took us 50 years. 50 years to get proper line of sight targeting. But they actually shoot. Holy moly, I can't believe it. That is very exciting. Revolution! Oh my goodness. As much as I have been complaining about every other thing, if there's one thing they could have screwed up on, the ranged gameplay, I am happy to announce that they did not. Outside of the hill issue. So on a flat map, absolutely no issues. When you know where the hills are, it's fine. I'm really worried about that sandy map that Creative Assembly showcased. This map? This map is going to be rife with random hills that you can't see. Especially with that lighting. So I would like some greater adjustments to the UI. But this late in development, I don't know if they'll actually implement it. I don't know if they'll think it's important enough. We'll see. 40,000 years later. Dang, I missed that opportunity. You wish Rattling guns were able to shoot at melee engagements? Oh my goodness, I know, right? The funny thing is, they could fix the properly shooty thing if they secretly added expendable to every unit. No, expendable units still block line of sight. I'm like 99% sure expendable units still block line of sight. As someone who has tried shooting through Skaven slaves many times. Like, if they added that feature and I didn't hear about it, my mind would be blown, alright? In multiplayer, there would be celebrations across the world. Since the game doesn't have rank and flank, do you see there being a real future in competitive gameplay? Yes. The biggest issue is that competitive gameplay, in my head, based off the units I've seen, it will be incredibly kitey. So my basis for what it'll look like, it's gonna look like Wood Elves versus High Elves without the cavalry. All right. So if you like, just think it's Waywatcher Kite versus archers. There's gonna be some rush factions, of course, but none of them feel extremely strong, and they're still getting kited. And because units can move and shoot, there's no reason to stand your ground. You should always be retreating. And that's going to make for a very, very different multiplayer experience. You counter kite with these vehicles, but you don't counter the vehicles with melee. You counter them with different range units. So that's not even really gonna fix it. Yeah. So I will say kite is one of the least favorite playstyles to go up against in Warhammer 3. I think it's still good that it exists, but it being the main dominant gameplay feature will definitely ruffle some feathers. Hammerhead tank strafing will look so good. Yeah, honestly, visual wise, I have no complaints. Like, obviously there's a few things, but the explosions are so much more chunky than the Warhammer 3 explosions. And I don't mind that much that it covers up a lot of the units, because you can still see their banners. On the rewatch, the clarity feels fine. Now, there's a bit of a weird thing. So if units get hit by an explosion, you see how their strafing looks the wrong direction? There's a few weird behaviors for units like that. I really hope that they eventually polish it. I think it's very likely they don't, though. That seems like one of those things that would fall really low on their priority list. Like, if you went to CA and you're like, I found a bug. If units get knocked down while strafing, when they continue strafing, they might not face the right direction. There's no way they're gonna put that on the high priority list, right? Unless I already had them accidentally facing the wrong way. But even then, it's kind of hard to tell which way they're strafing, so it's one issue or the other. Anyways, in terms of fine unit control, only a slight upgrade from Warhammer 3. I also dropped my drop pod directly on top of that tank by accident. It did not do very much damage, if at all, though. Here's what ranged focus fire looks like. So I focus fired that one orc unit. You can see they die real fast. I focus fire this one. You can see there's a little bit of overkill. That guy lives a little long. Yeah, focus fire, once you really get it going, the damage really ramps up. So this is me just forming up a gun line and focus firing. And that's when the lethality spikes. So in terms of general lethality, I wouldn't be too worried just yet. It might just be a skill issue. With cover being destroyed as fast as it does now, if everyone is penalized, no one is. Not sure exactly what you mean, but yeah, cover does blow up really easy. There are some craters, but even just like getting into the crater takes a lot of time, and by then you're in melee. Oh, you're responding to the other guy. Things without cover get penalized. So the flanking and suppression thing, I didn't really notice it. So an interesting thing, you can know nothing about what the units do. You can know nothing about the mechanics. If you optimize these 3 abilities, you will win the battle. In terms of balance, like balance between mechanics, armored vehicles, infantry, buff abilities, AoE abilities, and I guess like your librarian, you know, your single entities. 80% of your army strength comes from these 3 abilities. Maybe 5% comes from, nah, like 3% comes from this. And then like the rest actually comes from your units. This is something they could change in the future. Optimists will say it's just alpha, they'll change it. Pessimists will say not. But personally, I really hope that they look into it. Because like the librarian gets 2 casts of this vortex. You have like a bunch of these. And like... it does so much damage, which makes me really worried, because if they have legendary difficulty, so they had this problem with Warhammer. This is one of those creeping issues. Yes, it's very cool, but if this is 80% of your strength, if they add any difficulty to the game, the only way to win a battle is to min-max the crap out of these abilities. And then when you ask for higher difficulties, whoops, people will complain because they're like, the only thing you can do to win is cheese, which is true to an extent. If they made it where your units were way more impactful comparatively, then an increase in difficulty means you have to actually use combined arms a little better, which would be my optimal place for balance. I think your army should be the main driving factor for determining battles. And these can still be in, but not nearly as plentiful, not nearly as powerful. Those abilities won't always be available. Like, we say that, right? Has anyone gotten to turn 50 in a Gelt campaign and you just have free spells? Like, that is one of the most common issues with the late game, is that it gets like super easy and you're just like X4 speeding through battles, just spamming spells, and you're not doing anything different with the actual units in the game. It's very easy for them to make these abilities plentiful. Anyone who's seen the history of Warhammer 1, 2, 3, right? They know that like it's so easy for CA to go overboard on this. Okay. Even Ikit Claw from Warhammer 2, you know how easy it is to get your first nuke, and then suddenly like that's just your thing, you know, you can just easily clear off a big battle. Now he has, with Ikit Claw, his guns are as strong as his nukes, so it's a little better. But like, I don't know, like if they don't tune it just right, it's so easy to just make it where everything revolves around the one thing. Not gonna lie, the game looks like slop. I think you're fine to hold that opinion. I don't think the game is worse than Warhammer 3. I think the only reasonable, you know, if you think Warhammer 3 is slop, then it's fine, right? Strategically, it's not that deep, but I wouldn't go that far, having actually played the thing. It just depends on what you're looking for. It looks unstructured, and it looks like too much is going on. I can actually give some good insight on that. It felt that way the first time. Oh, here, I'll just restart this. It felt that way, and then I'll close out final thoughts. So that's all the gameplay I got. It felt that way the first time I played it. Now that I'm rewatching the footage, it's very easy for me to read what's going on now. I don't think readability will be a huge issue, considering how quickly I'm able to pick up on it. And because I actually played the game. Like, if you're just watching it, it's going to be harder. But from a personal standpoint, I think it will be okay. There's stuff they can improve on, like the range on some units. So we'll skip ahead. So you see how this like indicator is just very faint? There's some stuff like that they can improve on. They have multiple weapons, but it's hard to tell the range of each weapon without selecting it over here. But yeah, it'll be about the same as Warhammer 3. Numeric numbers on the tooltips. I think there's a way to get more detail on it. I don't know if you can get numbers exactly on this build. I never really dug into it that much. This is me trying to double click it to get more data, but you can see it's not really giving me that much, right? And I think this is already expanded. I think if I click this, it closes it. Yeah, so right now, that could definitely use improvement. The game looks utterly incomprehensible. That is... Personally, I would say that's a hot take. But also, I played the thing. Yeah, I don't know. From a personal standpoint, I'm telling you guys, I only got to play for 2 hours, and then I got to look at my footage. And I can actually tell what's going on now. My gameplay tends to be pretty zoomed out too. And you know what? Everyone's gonna be different, right? So if you just have a harder time reading games, maybe you'll run into more issues. I wish I could give more experience, but I only have my own perspective. I have 2 mice. Yeah, I'm dual wielding. Turin opened a different menu in his playthrough and it showed evasion and other stats. Yeah, I just couldn't find it. At the end of the day, I knew other creators would be able to find it better, so that's a good excuse to check out Turin's content. You're talking about Dawn of War 4, not 40k? I also don't have much of a hard time understanding for Dawn of War. But yeah, I don't know. It's really preference based. Watch Turin for the soothing voice. You watch Anticity for the rabid criticism.
Our duty to kill.
But yeah, I think that answers most everyone's questions. I think the best thing you can do, the best thing for visibility, probably, if there's something that you saw today that really bothers you, you can probably just like make a forum post, make a Reddit post, and try and see if a lot of people agree with you. Historically, that is probably the best bet you have on impacting CA's decisions on making anything.
Our foes have us outnumbered.
But just stating your opinions. I don't think it hurts Creative Assembly at all to just talk about the things that you really dislike. In fact, they probably put out stuff like this to figure out, you know, the biggest issues that people see, so that they can focus on fixing them. So if you really want, let's say, better AI, right? Just saying what you expect the AI to be, right? So don't just say like, oh, the AI is really bad, right? You should say, you know, when I watched the showcase, I really thought the AI would be flanking more and doing high-level strategy. Or I really thought the AI would be just doing the basic strategy stuff, you know? Just flanking, but man, I really wouldn't want them to kite me around the map all the time. That's probably the best way you can get feedback actually looked at by Creative Assembly. Obviously, no guarantees that they'll do anything about it. but that would be my advice. My opinion obviously is not the end all be all, but I hope this was enlightening. If you want actual lasers on the las guns, let them know. Maybe even email Games Workshop. If you want the bullet tracers to be more clear, so on and so forth, that's what you're looking at. Hey, this tank shoots a laser. Did I ever play Age of Empires 2? I played a little bit. I played more Age of Empires 4, and even that I didn't play much. You're impressed with the cover interactions, though? Really? I think the cover system, I like the ideas they have. I don't like the implementation. In practice, you see how I'm just posting up on the hill, right? The natural tendency leads you to play away from cover. But hey, you know, that's what you do. That's what you discuss. Orcs flank just uncommonly. They kind of flank by accident, which I don't think is great. I feel like just the timing too, like this tank that they have over here, it should really be driving into my lines once I'm occupied by the melee, if they were to play like a proper melee faction. Big turrets on the map do anything? No, this is just visual. I think you can see it shoot though. Yeah, just shot right there. But strategically, nothing. Yeah, orcs are a really bad matchup to cover heavy gunplay. I think the most we can glean from that is that Creative Assembly is not done the AI gameplay. They're probably not done the AI for heavy gunplay right now, which is an indicator of things. In lore, I gotta read more than one line. I'm so sorry. I have a bad habit of only reading just the one thing. Unless you're reading, unless there's something else. I would love the orcs to be more unga bunga. They still shouldn't blob off though, that doesn't make sense. But if they were like very, very aggressive, like even their range units would just keep closing distance, that would be hilarious. I think sometimes I saw their range units stop moving. In this case, they're closing though. Kind of hard to say. But yeah, lots to look forward to. I guess this is all CA have to show. That's all I have to show. If you have any last minute questions, send them my way. But I believe this 2 hours more or less covered everything. Specific faction AI would be so cool. Or even like, you know, different types of AI. So they just have a kite AI, they have a melee AI, they have a cover-based AI. And even just sprinkling that randomly amongst different commanders would be cool. But like some factions have tendency. So like greenskins will obviously more likely have generals with melee focused AI. That would be sick. And then you can just have some generals that are just straight up dumb, you know, just give them the dumb AI. Why not? The map abilities look so high impact. Yeah, I would say too high impact. How's performance? Performance on this early build, sometimes they're stuttering. If you go to X4 speed, you will clearly see that it's not ×4. Right now, their computers cannot handle ×4 speed. I did mention before, but since we're getting asked the question again, from what I've heard, most games do the optimization a lot later in development. I would personally expect that to be better on launch. And it was not unplayable levels, for sure. Did that guy just get nuked? I just saw a guy just get blasted by the Stompa cannon. Can a character 1v20 the entire army? If they implement the same item system as Warhammer 3, yes. The library. This is actually a good question. We didn't go over this. The librarian in this game had, in this battle, he had regeneration, and he could 1v1 this Stompa. So if they give any amount of ways to get extra ward save or physical resist or whatever, absolutely in this build you could get it done, because you just send the librarian in. He has 2 casts of his AoE, which can kill like 4 units a pop. You have these abilities which can each kill 4 units a pop. Easily you can wipe out a whole army with one guy. If they don't add extra ways to get ward save, then no, it would be the same as Warhammer characters without items. Yeah, without ward save, absolutely impossible. I would personally love it if they don't go too ham on the special items, and they leave this as kind of the peak strength of single entities. Single entities versus single entities is very similar to Warhammer 3. Very, very similar. You hope they add running in the grim darkness of 40k. Running has been abandoned entirely. Yeah, look at those guys. They're walking. They're just walking. Even, actually, yeah. Have we seen a single unit run? Let's look at these guys. Looks like they're kind of going a little faster than usual. You just hope they remove walking. What's your thought about reputation mechanic for Space Marines? No thoughts. Right now there's too many mechanics that completely outshine that system to the point where I didn't notice it. And therefore I just haven't formed many opinions. Do you still tell units to walk/run? If you look at the bottom left here, there wasn't a walk or run toggle. It seems like everyone's default to walking. Maybe I'm wrong. It seems like there's walking and then there's slower walking. That's strafing. So if you strafe, you go even slower, but yeah, kind of weird. I'm delusional and hope they make changes to Warhammer 3 based on this game, such as less emphasis on characters. I think the odds are very unlikely there. That's kind of one of the main power fantasies that they have in Warhammer 3. That's a fight I wouldn't even waste my time trying on CA. But if you want to, you did say you were delusional, I won't stop you. I think it would be really cool to see that because it lets the other units shine a lot more. Personally, my most favorite part, last closing thought. My favorite part about these games at a high level is when you can use combined arms to outplay the enemy army tactically. I've played the Total War games long enough where I'm just used to using abilities to kill them, and it's kind of gone boring. It's been boring for a long time. So anything that leans closer to combined arms is what I'm looking forward to personally. If you disagree, you can also let CA know that you prefer ability-based, ability-focused gameplay. Despite all that, I still think I had a great time. I look forward to the game. And I think that's basically it. You're fine with Scarbrand and Archaon being what they are, but Franz should have a retinue. Oh, that'd be really interesting. So some characters are like super easy to snipe, some are super fighty and tanky. I would be okay with that if they made it a very rare thing. It died easy. The Stompa? Yeah, Stompa didn't feel very strong. It felt weaker than an Arachnarok Spider in Warhammer 3. Especially because I don't have dedicated... It's not like my whole army is dedicated anti-armor, right? But alright. You may have noticed, so some side notes. You may have noticed I have not been streaming a lot recently. Honestly, I've been busy working on videos. And, you know, getting my hands on this stuff. And, like, creative assemblies, early access stuff. So that has really been digging into my time. Whoa, something just bugged. Oh, it's fixed. That's been really digging into my time. I would love to do more streams, but it's probably going to be TBD for a bit. And it's probably going to be campaign stuff because I'm trying to make campaign content. So speedrunning is in the works. You may have seen my recent Thankful speedrun battle. Very exciting speedrun, by the way. Working on a different quest battle to speedrun, and then I'll try out campaigns eventually. But until I can get that to be more of a steady series, as much as I want to, I just can't fit a lot of streaming in. When 40k comes out though, and when the DLC comes out, there'll definitely be a jump though. So look forward to that. And I hope you guys had a great time. See you next time. Bye bye. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Any multiplayer head-to-head capabilities? Probably not, unfortunately. Those are just a little too hard to organize. Not off the table, but not something I'm working on. Sorry. And see ya.